Um, my key verse happens to be the same as the girl who went before me, so sorry about that. But it's Matthew 6:33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. My name is Amanda Sullivan. I'm a senior at IUPUI. That's Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. Literally no one calls it that. It's IUPUI. And I am studying geology. I have been Joy Kim's Bible student since my freshman year, and I will graduate in December of 2022. Part 1 is my childhood and high school. I'm from a Christian family, and my parents took me to church during my entire childhood, so I've been a believer almost my entire life. One of my earliest memories is when my grandmother asked me where I thought everything came from, and I just learned that God had created everything. At my church, I participated in the children's choir, where my siblings and I stood out because we were the tallest kids in the church, and I was the oldest, therefore I stood out even more. And as a child, I was not comfortable with standing out, so this experience gave me the confidence that eventually let me become more comfortable performing on stage. I also participated in the youth group at my church during middle school and high school. When I started the youth group, it was extremely small. There were very few members, and I was the youngest. The group grew in number over the next few years, and by the time I left, it went from just a couple other people to one of the biggest groups in my church. I attended youth group regularly throughout middle school and high school. Meanwhile, in my life outside of church, I was a proud member of the band nerd clique at high school. Even within my own clique, I was really socially awkward and shy, but the band nerds accepted me. I was desperate to find a place where I belonged, and I thought I found it in marching band. However, my faith in my friends was tested during my junior year of high school when we did not qualify for state finals. Looking back on this, it seems very stupid and trivial, but I blame myself partially for our lost junior year. I was in the restroom when my section performed our silly little good luck ritual before a performance, and I didn't like to feel left out because I felt like I was forgotten about. My confidence took another hit soon after during the show choir band tryouts. At the end of the call-up meeting, I thought I was in, but I found out the hard way that I had been rejected. After I talked to the choir director, she gave me a small part in the band, and we did very well in our competitions, but it didn't feel right with me because I felt like I was getting all the credit for doing a very small proportion of the work. I felt like I could be doing more. I didn't know it at the time, but I had a very extremely bad case of imposter syndrome, and it ruled over my life for those few months. So, as you can see, my desire to fit in was not going very well. I'd been a believer my whole life, but during that time, I realized what it actually meant to be saved, that I was a sinner, but Jesus gave me a way out by dying on the cross. And during that same time, I also learned that I have a purpose to use my talents for God's glory. It was then I realized I was doing these fun things that seemed okay for all the wrong reasons. Not for God's glory, but because I wanted to be one of the cool band nerds who was doing these things. And I repented of using my talents to try to be popular. I wanted to use my talents for God's glory instead. I started playing my instrument for special songs at my church, and I wanted to sing in front of people too, though I wasn't quite ready for that until I got to college. And senior year was my comeback story. Not only did my band win the #1 marching band in our division, but we were also the first band ever to do so in our state without that didn't place the previous year. So this is my lesson of how God's plan works out better than our own, and how bad events lead to much greater results. And I feel like if I had to plan it, that would never have happened because we'd win every single year. But this was even better than that. And I also had a better position in the show choir. Although we didn't do as well in competition, I still enjoyed it better because I wasn't doing it for my own glory anymore. I also used my other artistic talent for God as well. During my final year of the youth group, we went to summer camp where I signed up to make a painting, and this painting was sold in an auction, and the money was used to help missionaries in Southeast Asia. And that's how I use my creative talents to help God's plan for people I will never ever meet. Part 2 is the past few years in college. My life was going well when I graduated high school in 2018. I went straight into college with the plan of becoming a wildlife veterinarian. I quickly realized I didn't really want to be a wildlife veterinarian. I switched to geology instead because you can't kill a rock intentionally or otherwise. I love geology because I get to study the earth that God has made. During my freshman year at IUPUI, I met Joy and we did Bible study together every week. She invited me to their worship service, but I did not accept her invitation until my sophomore year. I became involved in the UBF ministry, singing special songs every week and attending their Friday meetings as well. About the same time, my mom had gotten hurt. She hurt her leg, and they discovered that she had breast cancer and it spread to other parts of her body. She could not take care of herself, and she spent several months in a nursing home. That was an extremely difficult time for me and my family. And then everyone we know was praying for her, especially from our hometown church and UBF, and God answered our prayers. She got better quickly than I expected. More quickly than I expected. And she got out of that nursing home, and she put the cancer into remission. That whole experience strengthened my faith in the power of prayer, especially when a large number of people pray sincerely for something or someone. God will listen to them. My mom still has to get chemotherapy every 3 weeks, and that weakens her for a few days. So, and then my junior year, COVID-19 came and messed up the whole entire world. Everything that was going well for me suddenly came to a screeching halt. School moved to online, and so did our Bible studies. I thought I'd finally conquered my anxiety, but during COVID-19, I began to worry more than ever. I know the Bible says not to worry, but this is the biggest sin problem for me. I'm always anxious about the future. During the first few months of COVID-19, I wasn't just worried about myself. I was worried for my parents because both of them have compromised immune systems, and I was worried that I would get sick with COVID-19 and then spread it to them because I'm living at home. Ironically, the opposite happened. I caught COVID-19 from my dad. And it turns out that my family's immune system is much stronger than I thought, and no one in my family was hospitalized. We just had the symptoms of a really bad cold. So I'm thankful it was not any worse than that, because it could have been much worse than that. So anxiety and worrying about these things only made it worse. It would have been better. I would have been better off trusting God rather than stressing out about the future. And in order to avoid anxiety and to live for God's glory and his mission, I must remember Matthew 6:33. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. This year, I've tried campus fishing so I can become a Bible study teacher. However, due to COVID-19, there's only a few students on campus since most students had online classes. I met a few students who seemed interested, but I failed to follow up with them. And most students I met, they didn't return my texts, and that has made me discouraged. But I've also had a couple of experiences leading group Bible studies, and I've gotten really good feedback from people I taught. So hopefully this semester will be better because the students will return to campus for in-person classes. My conclusion and prayer topics. I will graduate from IUPUI in December of 2022, and everyone asks me what I'll do with my degree afterwards. This question stresses me out. I want to work in nature, collecting rock samples, but I do not know the specific details. That's not enough for most people. I also hope I can continue to make music, especially for God's glory, not just my own. As I mentioned before, I struggle with anxiety and thinking about the I struggle with anxiety and thinking about the future, so I try not to plan ahead too much. Although I still have anxiety about the future, I believe that God will bless my life according to the promises of Matthew 6:33. So instead of worrying, I want to seek God's kingdom and his righteousness first through the one-to-one Bible studies and meeting to go fishing regularly. So I may grow to be a Bible teacher for one thirsty soul this semester at IUPUI. This is my prayer topic for the fall 2021 semester. I also request prayers for my family's health as well, especially my mom's health. And may God also keep us safe from COVID-19. And my one word is, God is changing this anxious woman to a woman of faith and prayer.